Okay, so the first thing I want to do is actually get in here in this quad view and yank this bottom window down, and maybe I can move it over just a little bit. And in this top view, I'm going to go to this panels tab, perspective, and create a new camera. And I'm going to name this camera something like the master. So now we can actually grab this camera and get in here and import our scene into this view here. So it's a couple of ways we can do that, but for time's sake, I think I'm gonna just come down here to the image plane, import image, and just go out to my folder where my image sequence is and select the first. Make sure you render out your scene as a Targa, a TIFF, a IFF, or just the JPEG sequence because Maya is not going to really like it too much if you try to import something like AVI or MPEG or QuickTime. So I'm going to just open that up and we get this nice image on this back plate here. And here's our camera that we're looking through. So I'm going to just slide down to the camera settings and I'm going to turn on this film gate. I can grab a quick render. I click the render right here. Here's this button up top, File View Render. I'm going to go down to Render and set my render camera to the master because right now it's currently set to the perspective. So click Master and I grab a quick render. Now we did that. I can get in here and actually start adding geometry to the scene. Right now I'm just going to come up here and create a polygon plane. And I'm going to do this in my perspective view. Just going to grab and drag, holding down the left mouse button. I'm just dragging it. What I want is for it to line up with that door. And it looked like it might make it, so let's move it in place. I want to line up there and maybe line up like that. So let's push it forward. And it looked like I'm clipping through the image plane itself. So if I did want to actually push it back a little further without it clipping through, what I could do is just grab this image, click that, and I could push it back in the placement. So, you scroll, you find the placement, and then this depth is default at 100. You could push it back to something like 400, and you should have a little more room to work with as far as your scene placement. Now I can push this back, and now it looks like it's touching the door. So now that I got that, I'm just going to come up here and I'm going to make a new grid. Even though I don't have to, I'm going to make a new one, and I'm going to just stretch this one from that point, just stretch it right over my scene. Then I'm going to come in here and maybe line it up again. So now I'm going to delete this old one. So now since I got that together, what I'm going to do is just select the camera and come over here to this layer editor. And everything in the master cameras node, I'm just going to click on it, hold down shift. From translate X to scale Z, I'm just going to click scale Z. And then I'm going to right click in this area and go down to lock selected. And now my camera is locked. I can't move my grid or my floor anymore, but I can do everything that I need to do as far as moving my geometry around in this scene, or I can actually move it around in my perspective or any one of my orthographics. So in saying that, I'm just going to come up here, create a polygon primitive, and I think I'll use a cube for now. And I'll come over to the perspective and set this up here. Just push this cube. Maybe I can move it back a little. Give it a quick spin there. Then I want to come up here, just grab a quick render, see where it is. I could push it over if I wanted to, but this should be fine for now. Just come and create a new light, and I think I'm going to just make a spotlight, something like that. go to the attributes, and let's change this penumbra angle on it. Maybe give it a big penumbra. And we can come down to this bottom view and just say look through selected. And now we are inside that light. And we can move it around if we hold down Alt and the left mouse button. And then you could just move your light source where you want it in the scene. Take a quick render, see what it's looking like. And if you noticed, when I took that render, you didn't see any shadows on the ground. So what we want to do is introduce shadows into the scene. So let's do that real quick while we still have our light open. Just go down to depth map shadows. You see shadows, depth map shadows. Tick that. And now I got nice shadows in the scene. If I wanted to, I could just grab another piece of geometry, come to this view and make sure it's above the grid so we get that. Now, everything is good except for one thing. This plane is gray. So what I want to do is slap a new material onto this floor right here. So let's make sure we select the floor and just say assign new material. While holding down the right mouse button, we could just go up to this material here called use background. So we slap that use on there. Now, if you shot your scene outside, you don't really want this reflectivity to be up to 5. So you could just yank that down, and the limit, you can kind of kill it too. But if you shot your scene inside on a glossy floor or wooden floor or something, or on a table, then maybe you want to kind of push that back up to your taste. But we don't need it right now because this scene is outside. So I'm going to just hit another render. Now you see we get these nice shadows on the ground in our scene, and they sort of matching. One more thing we could do is maybe slap a material on here. I'll assign a new material. We'll just match it with this truck, somewhere on this truck. Give it this and this one here. And we could even hit it with a fake bump. Now, I don't have any black and white bump images, so I'm just going to use a image, a regular picture. So I'm going to click that bump mapping file. I'm going to browse out to my images, and what I'm just going to use is this crazy rock layer, stick that on there, and I'm going to take a quick render of it, see what we get, save this one out, and see what we get. Now I can increase the bump if I wanted to, or I can decrease that bump also. And, okay, so that's how you bring your video footage into your scene so you can do your 3D in your scene. So, if you wanted to, you can add dynamics to this, make an explosion, fire, do whatever, make it fall out of the sky and put a hole in the ground. Hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Elliot 7130